Hey, my friend, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Podcasting Podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and whether it's your first time tuning in or you've been hanging out with me for years, I want you to know that this is a space for honest conversation about podcasting, about creativity, and building your voice without burning yourself out. Today, we're talking about something that hits close to home for so many creators, and it's launching your podcast with confidence, even when perfectionism is whispering in your ear, telling you that you're not ready, you're not polished enough, or that your message isn't even perfect yet. I'm your host, Demetria Zinga, and I've been podcasting for over 21 years, coaching podcasters since 2006, and I've seen it all. The early excitement, the overwhelm, the endless tweaking, the anxiety around every single launch, and I've worked with so many podcasters who are passionate, driven, and ready to make an impact, and yet perfectionism quietly holds them back. It's the voice that keeps them in almost ready mode. You know, when you're not quite there, but almost there, the one that makes them rewrite the same episode scripts 5 times before pressing record. And honestly, I get it. I've been there too. And before we go any further, I just want to pause for a second and say this out loud to you that I'm so excited that we're getting close to our 100th episode here on the Soul Podcasting Podcast. Oh my goodness, you guys, that number feels so good to me. Not because it's flashy, but because it represents consistency and growth and pivots, all the lessons I've learned and staying in the game, even when things were not perfect here on this show. It's a reminder that podcasting is built one episode at a time. Some episodes are deeply strategic, some are more reflective, some really stretch me, and then some simply meet us exactly where we are. Reaching this milestone isn't about perfection. I think it's about being present. And honestly, it just reinforces everything we're going to talk about today, that confidence doesn't come from getting everything right. It comes from continuing to show up with clarity and intention. So here's the segment of the show where sometimes, and I don't do this every time, but I love to do it. I love to invite you to grab your tea, your coffee, or that favorite drink of yours, whatever floats your boat, because this is our cozy chat moment. I like to imagine that you're sitting across the room from me, like we're having a soul-centered strategy session in your favorite creative nook, ready to learn, ready to put these ideas into action. So I want you to take a deep breath, settle in, let yourself just be here. No rush, no pressure, just a little space to think and to plan for your podcast launch and growth for 2026. Perfectionism doesn't always announce itself with loud alarms. Sometimes it's subtle. Maybe it's a voice that says, I need to record just one more practice episode before I release anything. Or maybe you have this little nagging thought that, hey, I'll just start my podcast once my cover art is perfect, right? I want my cover art to look just right. And sometimes it hides in research mode where you tell yourself you're preparing, but really you're just procrastinating. I've been there. I want you to hear me very clearly. Perfectionism is not discipline. It's not focus. It's actually fear in disguise. And while fear isn't a bad thing, it's trying to protect you for sure, but it doesn't serve you when your goal is to share your voice with the world. So I'll give you an example from my own experience. When I first started soul podcasting, I had a tendency to record snippets, delete them, start over, overthink every detail. I was really much worse about this years ago when I first started podcasting, until I just sort of got into the swing of things and then went the opposite extreme and just didn't take time to edit and just kind of threw my episodes out there. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum, but I do remember being worried about how my voice sounded and whether my intro music was set the right tone or whether my wording was good enough. And at first I told myself, it's not about quality, but in reality, I was just avoiding putting myself out there fully. I wanted everything to be flawless before anyone could actually hear my message. And the problem with that is that my perfectionism delayed the impact that I could have made. It delayed momentum. It delayed learning. And the truth is, perfectionism will always find something wrong. It's never done. You'll always think, if only this were better, then I could launch my podcast, or then I could record my next season. The antidote to that isn't ignoring perfectionism, but it's about building confidence rooted in your clarity, which is something we talked about in the last episode. So if you want to dig in deeper to clarity, I'd love for you to listen to the previous episode, which I will, of course, link in the show notes. When launching a podcast, clarity is your secret weapon. Not fancy editing, not perfect music, not making sure that your logo's designed perfectly. Clarity is just knowing, number one, who you're serving, and two, what problem you're solving for them, and three, the transformation or the takeaway that they'll get from your episodes. And when you can answer those questions, everything else becomes easier. Your content, your messaging, your marketing, all of it flows from that core understanding. Clarity allows you to release without perfecting because you know you're serving someone who needs exactly what you have to offer. I remember working with a client who was terrified of launching. She kept re-recording her episodes because she wanted them to be flawless. So when we sat down and clarified her listener, which was introverted entrepreneurs who want to find their voice, and we mapped out the problem that each episode would solve, the first just pretty much melted away. She realized that she didn't need perfect audio to help her audience feel seen and supported. That clarity itself gave her the confidence to launch in just within a few weeks because she was able to take something off of her table that was keeping her from getting started. And then she was receiving messages from listeners who were already implementing some of the things that she shared on her first few episodes. So it was just confidence in this case. And it wasn't about being perfect. It was about being clear. So you can find success in your podcast, whatever success means to you. But if success means feeling good about what you've done and accomplished and making a difference and an impact, you can find that just by getting started and getting rid of all of the things that are holding you back, which in many cases is perfectionism. You know, perfectionists often get stuck because they believe everything has to be done before launch or before their next season. But here's the reality. Your launch is part of this learning process. Your very first episodes don't have to be flawless, but they do have to be done. So if you've been listening to the last couple of episodes, you'll know that I've been sharing relentlessly how I recently let go of two of my podcasts that I've been carrying for years, one for 14 years and the other for 5 years. And I don't believe these shows were failures. They were meaningful and valuable, and they did have a loyal following, and they still do. But carrying them got heavy, and the weight wasn't physical. It was more mental and emotional. It was that constant pull of, I have to maintain this perfectly. And when I let them go, something really shifted in me and I felt lighter. My creative energy has been returning and my focus is sharpening. This release made room for the work that matters most to me right now, which is teaching podcasters to launch confidently and intentionally and with joy. And that's the thing about perfectionism. It just loves to cling. But letting go, whether it's a project or a system or the idea that you need to be flawless, it's not quitting, it's strategic alignment. It's making room for the work that actually serves your purpose and your audience. Okay, so now we're going to get into some actionable steps that you can take right away to launch your podcast confidently, even if perfectionism is a regular visitor in your creative process. And your first step is to define your launch vision. So I want you to spend time writing down exactly what your launch looks like. If it's a relaunch or a new seasonal launch, this all counts, okay? So maybe it's not your first launch, but it's a launch, right? For the new year, for the new season of your life. How many episodes will you release initially? What are the key messages or takeaways for each episode, and who's your ideal audience and listener? Creating a vision doesn't mean it has to be perfect. Remember, we're not about perfecting this, but it just needs to exist so that you have something to work toward. Step 2 is to batch record when possible. Now, I realize this is not possible for every season of your life, but even recording just a few episodes in one sitting can relieve some stress. When you batch, you create a sense of preparedness that perfectionism cannot argue with. You'll know you have content ready to go, which allows you to just launch with confidence and not fear. 3, you'll want to use a checklist. Now, I created my Launch Confidently podcasting checklist exactly for this purpose. It guides you step by step from defining your ideal listener to outlining your episodes so that you can show up intentionally rather than with overwhelm. I believe that checklist transforms chaos into a plan. And of course, I'm linking that checklist in the show notes so that you can download it. Your 4th step is to accept good enough. Your first episodes aren't going to be perfect, and that's okay. But what matters is that you release them. Focus on clarity, focus on delivering value, and allow yourself to improve as you go. Even small, imperfect steps accumulate into progress over time. And step 5, celebrate every single step. Confidence grows when you acknowledge your wins. Hitting publish for your first episode, then celebrate. Sending it off to your first listeners, celebrate that. Every small victory reinforces your capability and your courage. Now, confidence isn't just about tactics. We've covered some of that, but it's also about mindset. So a couple of mindset shifts that I think can help you. Your first is, remember, it's perfection over progress. And so instead of waiting for perfect, focus on progress. Every episode that you release is a step forward and not a mark of failure. Your next mindset shift is that you should definitely ignore other creators' timelines. You don't want to be comparing your timeline to theirs because your journey is unique, and confidence grows when you honor your pace and your priorities. Thirdly, perfectionism thrives on fear. So if you're curious, though, it replaces it with playfulness. So you just want to be more curious than you want to be perfect. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this launch? Instead of, what if this isn't perfect? And I want you to take a few minutes to journal or think about these prompts. Ask yourself what perfectionist habit is holding you back from your launch. This is something that you can do in your spare time when you have a down moment, or even now as you're listening to this podcast episode. Ask yourself these questions before you hop back on the microphone. Also ask yourself what one small step you could take this week that moves you closer to your release date. And if you let go of your perfect expectations, what might you gain from that? Really sit with these questions and let them guide your decisions. And just know that launching isn't about eliminating fear. It's about moving forward despite your fear. I've had plenty of fears, and yes, it's a thing. Okay, so as an entrepreneur, as a business person, you'll have a lot of fears along the way of your journey because there's new things that are stretching you and making you think about things differently. I do have a Fearless Podcast Launch Challenge that you can join to help you overcome those fears and starting your podcast. So I'll also leave a link to that as well in the show notes. If this episode helped you see that clarity and not perfection is what builds confidence, again, I want to invite you to grab either my Launch Confidently podcasting checklist or join my Fearless Podcast Launch Challenge, which will help you to impact your audience. You'll get a workbook, 7 days of emails, and a free 15-minute consult to help you launch. So those are some things that I'm offering to you to help you get past those initial fears in podcasting. You can find any of those resources at soulpodcasting.com/resources. And if you want to see these principles in action and hear behind the scenes insights and even get more practical tips, I definitely want to invite you to come on over to my YouTube channel. The link is in the show notes, and I'd love to see you over on YouTube. So my friend, your podcast doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real and intentional and aligned with your voice. Confidence comes from clarity, preparation, and the courage to release imperfect work into this world. When you let go of perfectionism, you're making space for momentum, for creativity, and for joy. So grab your tea, your coffee, your favorite drink, take a deep breath, and trust yourself, my friend. Your audience is waiting to hear what only you can say. And as always, keep podcasting with soul, and happy podcasting.